what's genuinely different here? What is the offer? A picture says 1,000 words and you have 24 frames per second. That kind of idea is still true, but if a video is really, really, really successful nowadays, somebody can repeat back that central message to their friend the next day. If there's one thing I've learned about watching film, watching movies, doing video production, is you can get some details really right, and then there's some other aspect that another person it's the only thing they're seeing. And then they're like, this isn't high quality. And you're like, what are you talking about? I was up till 5 a.m. editing this one.
It's draining going through V8.
Version, final, all caps, all.
Welcome to Let's Fix Post, a show about making post-production smoother, smarter, and more collaborative for creative teams and editors alike. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss future episodes. Today I'm chatting with Jon Klein, the director at Video Department. What's really interesting about Jon's approach is how his team positions themselves as a fractional in-house department, filling that gap for companies that are too big for a solo freelancer, but not quite ready for full-time internal staff. Jon highlights the shift toward clients using post-production as their primary brainstorming tool, and why the most successful projects are the ones where the core message is finalized long before the first frame is ever even cut. Jon has a deep background in both production and marketing strategy, which means he isn't just looking for the fun projects, he's looking for content that actually moves the needle for a brand's audience. So you won't want to miss his take on how AI might be secretly sabotaging a video's effectiveness. We also talk about the power of the central main message, the one sentence a viewer should be able to repeat back to a friend the day after watching a video, and why identifying it early can save thousands in production costs. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you do too. Let's get into it. Jon, tell us a little bit about the company that you're at, and kind of just, I'm curious, just to level set, like what's your role and like the team dynamic there, the type of work that you guys produce. Just catch me up on where you're at.
Cool. Yeah. So first off, the company itself, Video Department. The angle of the company, the reason why we're called Video Department, is because we've found there's a lot of companies that are at the size where they're not quite ready to bring in their own internal video department, but also they are a little bit above just like, hey, we want a freelancer to come do project, that kind of thing. We're sister companies with a company called Company 119 that does overall digital marketing and the strategy and those kind of pieces. So we come at it more from an angle of, and hence why the logo kind of looks like a target a little bit and the record button, is because we wanted it to be not just the recording of it, but also we come at it from the angle of the marketing. How is this going to be received by your audience? Is this the right content for that audience? And bringing a little bit of that strategy rather than just, hey, this would be fun to make this project. It'd be fun to do this. Somebody comes to us and it sounds exciting. It's like, hey, we want a time lapse of our coffee shop. And it's like, great, cool. Yeah, we can do that. But it was more from the mentality of like, let's ask the questions early on that are going to direct what we actually capture, because you get happier people at the end of it if you're making sure that you actually go through the full process of not just production, but the delivery and making sure that it's the message that the client wants to get across. So that's kind of our angle. We function like an internal video department, so people can talk to us naturally. They can, you want to text us, you want to call us in the same way that you would probably just call somebody else on your team or Slack us, those kind of things. We try to make it very relaxed, very natural in that conversational way, but still being able to bring a little bit higher of a level than just like, hey, let me call up, Kyle, the local guy, and hope that he can film this for me and then give me a video that then I do something with later on.
I think it's important to know that strata that you're serving, where it's like you're above a freelancer, right? But you're not so out of reach of like, this huge Hollywood style production that like you got to go through like 8 different levels of internal stakeholders on the production crew just to talk to the guy who can get something done. We also focus on that, like, I've called it like a fractional in-house team, where a lot of our clients don't have like the headcount to produce the editing capacity that they want to keep up with for content demands or whatever. That can kind of wax and wane in terms of how much. So to bring someone on staff and be paying a salary and benefits and equipment and training, like, I've got my whole soapbox about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But we still try to show up like relationally, right? So
Have you
Yeah.
heard clients call that out as a core strength of yours out there where like they've experienced maybe kind of this black box, fill out a form, stick it in the box, and then out comes a V1 and you're like, this wasn't what I want. Like, have you heard any of those stories?
Yes and no. I think it's more for, they don't say it like, hey, we get the process, John. We get the like, oh, you named that company perfectly. Like, great job. They don't do that, but they
Yeah.
definitely do go like, oh, we were working with this. It was just too slow of a process. It was this, there was this big company. They did this great thing. It was just too slow. Or like, yeah, it just really wasn't working out. They just, there's those pain points just drive a wedge between them. And then I think the connection that we have, I think one of the results we've seen on the positive side is a lot of our reviews, and I don't want this to happen every time. So any of our clients that see this, don't do this anymore. But thank you. They would like put in like, oh, John did a great job or Jana did a great job on this shoot because it felt more personal to them. And so they're almost leaving a review on that borderline of like they want to call the individual that they worked with out because it felt so personal to them. Where great, we're getting a result out of it that we're going for, but at the same time, it's like it's better if you just say, the company overall is great, like rather
Yeah.
than it feeling
Yeah.
like just one person on the team was good. But yes, we see results from it, but I don't think people necessarily get the whole idea unless they've worked with an internal team before or if they've struggled with a freelancer. So I think they notice it when they've gotten experience if they're a large enough company or an experienced enough individual at that company to be able to know what both of those look like.
Yeah. I mean, I think it takes going through that experience to have be able to draw those parallels. But I'm just thinking like, just the whole I love the idea of video department. Like we're your department. You can talk to us as though we were in-house. I think a lot of that boils down to like communication. Maybe it took too long or it just didn't work out is like the surface level symptom, but really like the root cause, I would assume one possibility is the communication wasn't there to facilitate that. And I feel like we're going to talk a lot about communication today, or it's going to be one of the topics that I know that we were excited to dive into together. Do you find that you're able to show up in a unique way when it comes to communication because of how you've positioned yourself in your client's mind and how you've chosen to build your internal team?
Yeah, I think so. I think a big piece of it too was just knowing how I was going to be on the team, and I'm the director of video for that department. So I run this department. I'm the one that's leading up those communications. So for bringing other guys on for the shoots or for editing purposes, I'm still the person that the client's interacting with the most. So because of that, and even on the shoot too, I try and make sure that even as a director, I'm not just there directing whoever's filming, but direct communicating with the client, communicating during the interviews and handling those kind of things. Because I found that my angle was going to be just kind of blunt, honest, and not the cleanest, most polished version, but a way that's, ideally I'm hoping to be engaging. I knew I was going to do that. I knew I wasn't going to be able to polish up everything that I say enough. So the idea was let's frame it around that as a value point of just we talk to you naturally, So I think one of the ways that you'll see it, one example, I can't remember the name of the book, but essentially they were saying you should see if you put this in place, you should see it down to how does that change the emails that we send, right? How does that change the wording in the emails that we send? That's how ingrained it should be in kind of the branding across the board. Even like our templated emails for like stages of the video production are still how we would naturally have said it in a fun way directly to them. Like, hey, it's time. Like the videos are actually done. Like it's ready for your review, those kind of things. But we say it not just like these are official and these are ready and it has reached
Yeah.
100% completion for you to be able to review. Like we
Yeah.
tried to just like, no, let's be humans. Let's talk as if we were somebody else that they worked with and they asked a question to us.
I feel like that goes so far. Like, I mean, in probably in client subconscious, I would think, where they don't even realize, oh, hey, I'm like, it does feel like I'm talking to someone. I think aside from like the corporate kind of stiff mentality that like, you could choose to put up, now we're also facing AI stuff where you're like, is this even a person? So, I mean, like we handcraft all our emails too. And I think that it's, some of our little branding nuances are like we say hey or hi instead of hello or dear, like just kind of realizing where that mentality can surface in these little moments that compounds to like this is how we operate. And I think especially for you all, right, because you're full service, right? So
Yep.
you're on site and you're shooting, so you have that engagement versus like we're post only, so our
Right.
engagement is on calls like this or a lot of written communication. So, I mean, kind of making sure that you're over delivering on like, being a relatable person, I think goes a long way. I'd like to think it does at least.
We are seeing more projects come through than we've seen in the past where people are saying, hey, can you just edit this piece? Or we captured this already, or we captured on our iPhone. Can you guys utilize that stuff at all? And there's a whole process there. But we've done it, we can, and that's happening more and more. But I definitely have seen the ones where I get to be on site with a person, that facade of like the professional personality and the AI updated profile photo. It's all gone, right? You're
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
there in the room with them, and it's so great about kind of being able to build up their relationship. So, but that's not the whole piece of the process. That's production, right? That's one phase of it, and it's a lot of times built into 1 to 2 days that we're interacting with them. A lot can happen there, but so much of the rest of the process is like it's emails. It's a virtual meeting with them reviewing content. It's those things that are now virtual, and the personality has to stick there as well too, and match up to what they saw in person too.
Since we both have teams, it's like you have to have that unilateral like voice, right? And maybe it's different per person, obviously, because you have different personalities, but there's still certain like guidance and adherence that like it would be off brand for someone to be stiff and rigid when like this whole process you've had this more casual familial tone. So I'm glad you brought up your role because I didn't ask that organically, so thank you. But so I want to
You did.
pivot.
I didn't answer it organically. That was the problem.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, we'll call it a draw then.
Okay.
I am curious to know, like, let's talk a little bit about like the makeup of your team because I know that you were talking a bit ahead of our call. We were chatting about like, internal versus external. There are these times where there might be external partners that get involved, but it sounds like you do have a core team. So just if you mind pulling the curtain back a little bit and telling me like what is the makeup of the team?
What's here in the office day to day is going to be I'm doing a lot of the post production. I'm doing a lot of the editing myself. We have overflow people that are people that we work with that either they're freelancers often that can take any overflow. If we got too much work, we have some of the simpler projects that can go over to them. Because I'm interacting with the clients right now, I want to make sure that I bring that full story ahead, all the way through to completion of the project. So I like that. I like that piece. I like being able to move between the different phases. There will be a lot of projects that'll go through and entirely, I've touched every single phase of that. We've also got other team members, though. I think important pieces to have in place are some additional content writers for people that script writing that are on the team that make sure that if it's not this voice, the like, hey, let me say it wrong first and correct it later is kind of how my mentality is. Like, get the hook in. That's fine. I can do those kind of things. But there's other people that if you have a brand that's a lot softer spoken, if there's a brand that's got to be a little bit more slow and methodical in the way that's said, there's other people on the team that we utilize that are content writers for the web and that also can write the scripts. And then the other piece that I think is important to not be me, even if it's a project that I'm like, oh, I've got the time to be able to handle all of this, is making sure that our QA, so quality assurance of the product, goes to somebody else. If there's one thing I've learned about either just studying kind of film, watching movies, doing video production, is you can get some details really right, and then there's some other aspect that another person it's the only thing they're seeing. And if you don't get that detail right, the client might be that person, that other personality type, and then they're like, this isn't high quality, and you're like, what are you talking about? I was up till 5 a.m. editing this one. It's
Yeah,
gotta be
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
So
I think getting super close to the work, right? Like I think about, you can build out these sequences that like if you just looked at that one little piece, it's like you were really intentional about the beat and the music you cut on or the foot they were walking on between the two shots for that continuity or the grade is perfect. But then you zoom out and like the structure of the flow is wonky. So it's like that classic, like can't see the forest for the trees sort of thing. I think as a creative, like I resonate with that a lot where I'm like, you got to be super passionate about what you're making to even turn anything out. But there's some inherent blinders that get put on while you're doing that, right?
absolutely. I think it has to because you got to have a vision, which is a perspective on it, right? It's not necessarily 3D. That's where you bring it to other team members, to be able to get other perspectives on the project. But if you've ever had to make a video that is by committee, it at best will get very bland. And I think even just thinking about if you've edited with 3D footage, I've tested some of that stuff before. You got two angles, right? You lay two angles on top of each other in the timeline. Great. You might be able to piece it together if you got two different channels. If you start adding just different layers on top of each other and just like, hey, here's another perspective, you're going to get a very blurry, bland image that'll kind of give you the general colors of what was in that room at that day. That's when you've got to have that central person that makes that final decision of, yes, this is the vision we're going for, because at the end of the day, the analogy my boss always gives is if we all went to the art museum and you said, go pick out the best thing here, everybody's going to come back with a different selection. And nobody's wrong necessarily. That's just a piece to be able to watch for. I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, I think it was great. My question was probably dumb at this point. I don't even know. But no, I think, yeah, the subjectivity, right? Like there are some very clear, like objective points that we could get wrong, right? Like a typo or like a drop frame or something that's like non-negotiably like that is cropped incorrectly. But there's a whole range of all this subjectivity that comes in that like, it sounds like you're alluding to, like stakeholder misalignment on the front end, or like, I talked about communication at the beginning, like gaps that can happen there. So I thought one really intriguing thing, and this is a great pivot point or segue into this comment that you made ahead of this call, was everyone's favorite AI topic right now. But I think you had a really unique, like, way to tie it in. So rather than like, oh, AI is creating videos, or we're not talking about that. We're talking about the prompt that you get.
Yes.
To start a project where they say we need X type of video that accomplishes X, Y, and Z. That's the chat, like the AI part that you're getting fed, right? And that's where I assume there's a lot of misalignment or assumptions that could end up happening. So I don't want to steal your thunder and make too many assumptions. Talk to me about what you were bringing up there.
No, I'm glad you brought this up, because it is just an element we've seen for our standard process with most of our projects is you get 2 rounds of revisions, which means we send it over to you. You get all of your notes, whatever they are. It doesn't mean 2 edits, but it could be a list of 1,000 edits for one video. Comes back to us. We make those changes, send it back to you. You do your final round of revisions, and then we make those, and the video's done at that point, right? If we have to go beyond that, that's additional editing time that we're not factoring into the project. That's outside of scope. We have to start charging people for it. The problem we've seen, though, is that not on every single project, but more recently, especially people that are very used to using some of these AI chat prompts, that if they come to us, they treat it in the same way. They give like initial edit of essentially, I need a video ad for this product by this deadline. So we go through the process, and they don't really have a ton of buy-in throughout the process. But then at the end, all the notes on, I don't really know if we should focus on this feature of the sprocket. I really don't know if we really want to show it in this kind of lighting at all. Or really, it's not as waterproof as we've claimed before. We really shouldn't have that angle be there. Right? It's those kind of things that then come through at the last stage. And if you think about the production process, you got pre-production, all of that planning should have happened then. Then you have production when we're filming the scenes where we're dipping the sprocket into the water, right? Then you get to the post-production where we're editing it and picking what shots do we want to use of the dipping in the water. And then we finally get to the stage of here's the finished product. That should be the touch-up. That should be the fixes of, hey, there's a name that's wrong, or can we put in a call out to this title here? Or even something as major as, can we go faster with it? We're getting, unfortunately, this process of people understanding, oh, I get prompt, I get the product, then I start to give my revisions and I give my ideas, and my buy-in come after I've received this ChatGPT spit out, or this, this video spit out from these websites. It's like, let me see the final work, then I'll critique that, rather than buying in with the idea stage where we can actually craft it a lot better. And it's just crazy amounts of revisions now that people are getting to, and we really don't try and be crazy about pushing back on how many, we have those 2 limit, and we try and use that as a general scope, but occasionally people will get to round 3 or 4 and we're not, saying, hey, it's time to pay. But we're getting to a point now where we've actually genuinely had to start saying, like, this is way too many revisions that are being rounds of revisions that are overwriting first versions. You're still iterating with these. It's like your first round of revision changes now are completely negated by round 4 or 5. Like these are, you're going back on things. I don't know if it's going to be a quick turnaround or if this is going to be one of those things that sticks in the culture, and is it more of an issue to deal with as we go forward. But I mean, have you guys been noticing any more included rounds of revisions recently, or any of that stuff affecting you?
Thankfully not. Like I don't think we've had too many situations where we get like kind of, this low buy-in prompt as an idea that then is fine-tuned and like, massaged into something usable through the revisions. Like that is a horror story we haven't shared with you yet. Or that we haven't joined you in. But I think it is really interesting to see like humans aren't AI, and the process of actual video creation isn't like hit a button and get a new thing spun up and generated. Like it takes effort and, it takes man hours. It takes like, processing time. Like it just takes time, right? So, I mean, one of the ways that we try to get ahead of this is like like we have a templated creative brief at the front end, where it's like, these are the things that we need to know. And that's something that's shared with the client, right? So they're like, helping fill it out, or like, this is based on our understanding. This is how we're translating that. So, I mean, how have you been able to correct this issue? Like, I mean, have you started to impose more like front end systems or work there that kind of helps mitigate that? Or are you still like in the thick of it?
No. I think we've seen it only a few times recently, but those initial stages are there for us. So I think it's just a piece of the understanding of the individuals that we're working with. That's really what we're coming down to. Because we've got some of that pre-planned stuff. We've got we need these things. The questions we need answered, we make sure we have. But we also try and make sure that if you don't have the creativity, we work with a lot of people that are like, you guys are the ones that are the creative ones. Here's what we know we need for this. You guys figure that out. But we found that people are a lot more comfortable now at this stage recently, that especially ones that are getting used to these prompts, or they're like, hey, it's been people, at least the two I can think of recently that this kind of happened with. They were both people like, I love ChatGPT. It's great. Like, it's like the best thing. And it's like, it's great. Yeah. It is great. But also, what do you mean by that? Like, why are you telling me that? And I think there's just this understanding of like, it's a lot more comfort in the post-production asking for revisions versus let me buy in and fill out more of a prompt at the beginning and really put my buy-in there and start to visualize this project.
I'm always curious. I'll ask you this question too. Like, if the client is super unwilling, maybe they're pressed for time, or maybe they just don't know. If you had to pick, I don't know, 3 to 5, like, don't have it laying on a specific number, but like, what are the most key inputs that you could get from them at the start of a project to where you feel like, if I only have you for this amount of time, or you can only list out these things, like, what do you ask for?
Yeah, we've got kind of a kickoff process that we handle, and it has a lot of the questions that we feel we need to have. And without getting into the proprietary stuff, I think the main one that I would want to call out, though, what's genuinely different here? What is the offer? And we've kind of built out processes to make sure that when we capture what that main central message is, the one that if somebody remembers it the next day, I think I've said this before when talking to people in public, maybe in some videos that we post as well on our social, but the idea of if a video is really, really, really successful nowadays, somebody can repeat back that central message to their friend the next day. They remembered it. It was easy enough to understand and be able to be communicated, right? That central main message. That's the piece that we really try and hone in on. If you get one message, there's a lot of data that comes through. There's a picture that has 1,000 words and you got 24 frames per second. That kind of idea is still true, but they are going to forget a lot of what they're seeing as well. And if you had one thing you want them to remember, is it that this new sprocket is the only one that is waterproof, or this is, this new shoe or this new pipe that we've invented, no bacteria can grow inside of it. If that's the main message, we need to know what that main message is. We need to be confident in what that is and make sure that that's what comes through at the very least, because often we found if you don't have that, the whole video for some reason just becomes boring. They, even if it was exciting and moved really fast, there wasn't one idea for them to hook into and remember. They will forget other elements to the video. So that's a big one that we try and make sure, because at the very least, if we achieved a video that's, you know, faster than they wanted, or it's more colorful, or any of the other thematic elements to the video, if that central message is in there that we all agreed on at the beginning towards the end, it's not like we're dealing with people that are not happy. It's just maybe the process could be faster or more efficient, or not have as many rounds of revisions. But if that's there, that's been a key element to just really spend time on and make sure that we get that central main message, that one sentence down.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I agree. I feel like our intake can sometimes feel like playing 20 questions, where it's just like, give me this information, this. And I've really been like, how can we make this simple? And I love that is the crystallization for you, is just like, like, you don't want viewers to think back to the video and go like, oh yeah, it was really like fun or energetic or poppy or colorful.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, that's all surface level. You want the depth of like, this thing could change this part of my business or this part of my life or something like that, right? Like, I need to, investigate this further because I see value, versus like entertained for the 30 to 60 seconds that it was on.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great, like, if you could only have one thing, I love that answer.
If you get one message, what is it?
Yeah, one message to rule them all.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so like, you're usually, the one in the editing seat. If you could talk to your clients and say, please stop doing this AI prompt thing, like, what are some of the reasons why? I would imagine your experience suffers, but like, do you feel like the end product suffers for it? Or like, why shouldn't they do this?
Two reasons. I think the main one being, though, we can capture that message better if we get it right in the pre-production. I think the best example to give is that there's some commercials you'll see that were very effective that are one shot the whole time, right? It's not a bunch of different locations. And then there's sometimes when the right message is a montage of people all over the world and totally different people, and the product sometimes being used and the product not being used. There's a range of ways you can say the same thing. If we know that final vision better, and you have a better idea of that final vision in that initial meeting, we can, one, do it in more cost-effective ways. Two, we can also make sure that we are capturing specifically that message. Whereas if you just say, hey, I need a picture of our products, and then it turns out, no, the main use of these is going to be in a spec sheet where guys need to know the size and stuff. Then we need to make sure this is photo accurate. We need to make sure that it's not cool or being filmed into the shadows to be able to make it look more dramatic. Like, no, the best product photo for this one is probably going to look pretty bland and boring, but it's really accurate to what the product is, and guys can get a better understanding. Oh, it has this connection, and this heater plugs into this part of the factory line. Knowing that message early on makes us a lot more accurate with that messaging, rather than now having to take a separate message and curve it back to the point that is actually better for them.
What I'm hearing twofold, at least at this phase, is like, it'll actually accomplish the mission that you need it to do, right? Like, it'll be an effective piece if you prompt it ahead of time. And then cost savings, right? Like, I feel like that alone, I would imagine, would move the needle back toward like, okay, let's follow the proven process. Let's do it the way that you're going to work best. I feel like those are pretty compelling for the clients, as far as rationale of like, don't, shortchange the pre-production. I've also heard that like an hour in pre saves 8 hours in post. And as an editor, I can like, that tracks.
Yeah,
I feel like,
for sure.
because there's just so much tweaking and things to do. And I think especially like AI tools, like there's tons for the post, but it's not like they're instantaneous. Like sometimes they require processing or they require credits, and back to the cost side of things, right? And then I think about a lot like the perspective of the team. So like I have a team, and for me, I feel like I personally have two clients. Like my clients are the ones that pay us. And then my other clients are the team that get the work done to enable the fact that we even have a company. So I want them to have a good and positive experience. And I think like endless revision rounds or like shooting in the dark on the V1 and like, I don't know if this is what they want. There can be some anxiety when you send that V1 out versus like, oh, like I feel like we really nailed what they're looking for because I had a clear vision. That and then like just slogging through it, like, it's draining going through V8, and by the time you're done, like you said, you could be going back on notes you already did. And then there starts to be some friction between you and the client. I feel like even if it's not expressed, it's like, I did this
Yeah,
already.
V8 version final, all caps, all. Yeah, exactly.
I've seen a coffee mug with all of those, like what it looks like for final edits. Yeah. But
It's like we're manifesting it just by naming the file type final.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Don't
this
put
time it'll
final
be
on
it
any-
because I said it is.
and that inevitably means that it won't be it, right? 'Cause it just-
Exactly.
I don't know if you want to speak from like your own perspective of having lived through this on both sides. Like you can see the cost savings and the efficiency side, but also the creative experience of like going through that.
I just really think that often it's that if you got that central message correct from the beginning, then there's a million different ways you could have filmed it. And sometimes it is go high production with this, make this look right. I can't also deny though that some of the videos that have done the best have been like, a simple, hey, we filmed this, we barely edited it at all, but it was genuine. It was from maybe the owner, the right person, in the right situation. It was just captured at the right moment and needed very minimal editing, but it's exactly what the person needed in this situation. So it's performing really well. If you can get that planning right, there's a lot that can be fixed in post-production. There is a lot, and it takes time, but there's some stuff that you just cannot fix in post-production and still have it be accurate. Like if the person you're interviewing really should have said a slightly different thing to be able to hit that message. If I know sitting down for that interview that, for instance, back to my example of the sprocket being waterproof, that kind of a thing, right? If I know, no, our main message is that this sprocket has new features and this is an engineer that I'm interviewing for this part of the video. I'm the only person at that point that can guarantee that gets into the camera. And if we don't have that clip, nobody can edit it later. You can pretend it's him and have some AI move his mouth and stuff like that, but nobody's going to buy that stuff. And he's also going to get mad as soon as he sees that you watched it and added stuff of him. So yes, the more time that you take in the initial stage to be able to let's get this message right and just think about it, visualize it a little bit more, you will get a lot better product at the end of the day. And there's cost savings there because you don't necessarily have to go to 5 locations to film that same message. If the main message is this is waterproof, the ad might be as good as just dipping the product in water, and that was your main message. Great. You got the main message across better than 5 different people throughout the process being interviewed and talking about it.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to recognize where those lines are between like, what can be automated for efficiency and where you're really like setting yourself up for a longer, more expensive, more painful experience down the road if you kind of shortchange it. And I think it goes back to kind of how you open the call, right? Where it's like part of being a video department is having these conversations and being a sounding board and saying like, I hear what you're saying as the expert. I think we should do it this way. And so I think all of this makes sense to me that this would be a pain point is when the other side of the table isn't necessarily giving due credit to that upfront exchange that's really going to have huge downstream effects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It may be difficult sometimes when they're bringing you in. It's because they don't have the time. That's a piece of it is they don't really have a ton of time to invest in this, or they're like, that's not really what I'm good at, right? I'm not really good at coming up with those creative ideas. So right out of the gate, sometimes they're like, no, I'll critique later on. That's where I'll really show me what the product is, and I'm good at doing that. I can't remember who said the analogy, but I love the phrase. It was like, it's a lot easier to judge between a good egg and a bad egg. It's the hardest is creating an egg, right? So a lot of people are like, you're the goose, you bring it to me. I'll tell you if it's 24 karat gold later. It's just, that's a little bit of I think what people get in the mindset of, whereas we try to make sure we frame those questions early on to be able to say, let's start critiquing it now. Is that central message the new features are better than any of the other ones that are out there, or we work faster than anybody else out there. What is the main message of this? And then ideally through that process, they get a little bit of that critiquing mind out of the way. They start to go, no, that's not it. No, it should be something more about how nice our team is and how much we're like a family and those kind of things. It's like, okay, great, but is that really, if you had one message, is it that, oh, this company's like a family? Or is it that the product works 20% faster, or it's waterproof, or it does these actual features that'll make you stand out as a company or as a product? That I think was kind of the message I was trying to go for.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. I think that helps a lot just to like really clarify, beyond a shadow of doubt, because you don't want to be in post. Like I love that, just like mentioning like we're trying to curve it back or like bend back what we've already done to hit this other thing, and it's not going to feel right. So like I think we can't quite throw the baby out with the bathwater with AI stuff, right? On the pre-production side. So what would you tell a client that came to you that's like, I just married ChatGPT. Like I'm working lockstep. Like that is my go-to now. And
Yeah.
it will be a part of my pre-production. So like if you had to have it in there and the client is the one steering the ChatGPT vote, like how could you advise them on using it in a way that's not going to be to the detriment of you or the project or like the overall outcome?
Yeah, I think confirming that central message again plays an effect here. Making sure that I have that central message to be able to use as leverage in the conversation of often ChatGPT's or any of these AI writing things can be bland because it's going to a bunch of different perspectives trying to pull together the overall similarities between those, right? But often as marketers, we're trying to stand out. So it's a little bit of right now we're getting a product that already does need some work. Now sometimes it's the last 20% that we can do, or maybe ChatGPT is doing the last 20% of trying to clean things up for us. So what I am seeing is if we're reliant on that, my main concern is, are we actually going to get that central message? Or is that going to kind of get phoned in or just, hey, chat, what's a great feature we should call out about our new product? That's not the same as somebody that's actually picked up a new thing and said, this thing works faster. This thing, it has this feature. You need to make sure that if they're going to be utilizing that process, that it gets into its proper place of just figuring out the formatting or just helping you lay out some of the message or maybe clarify the message. But that central message, though, still needs to be decided on and figured out. And then at least I can use that to say, okay, that's fine. You can write that initial script if you guys feel confident in writing that initial script. As long as I know I can test this script and I can say when it comes over to me and I've got the time allocated for it, let me look at this and go, it's fine, not bad. I feel like we really need to call out, though, our main message because it doesn't seem to be coming through here. So I think getting that first in place, getting that central controlling narrative in place before we get down the route of getting some of those things in place, we can work with it. We can definitely work with ChatGPT scripts that a client has sent to us and we can revise it from there. But I need to make sure that we have some mutual understanding of what that main message is before I can start to push back and say, here's the problems with this.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not like you can't use this at all. It's more of like, let's not rely solely on that. We hear about like the microwave generation, right? Like it feels like that's sort of a thing where it's like I put in the prompt and I hit enter and an answer comes out and I copy that and I paste it and then we go. It's like you could put the idea in there, get the prompt, but then let's pause and like assess. Are we happy with this answer? And to your point, right? Like, can we identify what the core message is that's actually going to be valuable at the end of all of this?
I'd like to have you, David, always just there to take my thoughts and clarify them for people because I don't always make sense. Hence why I like video production is I get a lot of time to go through clarify messages and like, no, this is the way to say it really strongly. No, I appreciate that.
No, good. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that I understood and everything and that, because I want to make sure that we're putting out like advice that is helpful if people are like, I was going to say dependent or hooked on ChatGPT, but just like, it has become a core part of the process. And so I don't want to put out the messaging, you can't have that. Like you can't use it, it's going to mess everything up. Like I think it
Oh yeah,
has a
yeah,
place. And I
yeah,
think that's the point you were making is like know how to put it in place, but
yeah.
don't give it all the power, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and recognize what it's good at and why it's good at that, and then recognize what it's not as good at or what it's never going to be able to do just by the nature of what it is. Again, it's going to be very, very difficult. I haven't gotten a script pumped out of ChatGPT that was like right out of the gate was like, yeah, that stands out. It just even if I tell it, oh, put it in a way and I give it some prompts, like, do something unique with this message and make it stand out, that last, at least 20% of that script needs to get changed over to be able to now make it so it's not a spit out of a bunch of other content being mashed together.
And I think that that was a really interesting point you made about like, they're almost like diametrically opposed marketing and being unique, and ChatGPT basically like crowdsourcing what everyone's doing to come up with, here, fall in line is what's supposed to be done. It's like, no, the point is to be different. So, yeah, I mean, I think just acknowledging that and recognizing that you're kind of fighting an uphill battle or just being aware that like this dynamic exists would color how you use the tool, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we've done a good amount of runtime on like kind of trashing chat or like putting it in its place. But I would love to like kind of to close this out. I'd love to hear like what are some of the AI tools, if you have some that have really that you've been able to leverage for your benefit, someone in the editor's seat or someone on the client side that, you were able to problem solve something that you wouldn't have been able to. I know you brought this up before where it's like, if you missed a soundbite, you could in theory, like capture their voice sample and like rewrite it, but then you got to make sure you're on the same page with the talent and that they're okay with it.
Yeah. And that they're going to review it and approve that. Yes.
Yeah. But it's like the excuses for editors are kind of going away is what I've found, where it's like they didn't say that quite right. It's like, oh, well then, within reason, like it has its
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
limits for sure. And you couldn't necessarily pair that with believable footage. Like it would have to be like VO only and have like B-roll or something.
Right.
But like,
Right.
okay, so super long question, but like, what are some ways that AI has been helpful for you that you think editors and clients benefit from knowing?
So just to be clear, AI, when you take over the world, don't come get David and I. We both were saying good things about you too. Okay.
The next 30 minutes will all be pro AI. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now this is the segment. If you really like AI, skip to this part. One of the really cool examples we had an event where we had to put together like 10 different sponsor videos for 10 separate sponsors for that night. You got a hard deadline of there's an event. If it's not shown up there, one of these people is going to be mad because they're one of the sponsors and they're going to see everybody else is done. So we had these hard deadlines, and we had people that again just didn't necessarily think too much about the event coming up until it was time. They became sponsors really late in the game. So we had to move quickly. And some of them we had worked before with, on past years for the same event. And they were like, oh, good, we get to work with you. We have an idea for some stuff. And they were excited about stuff. So then it's like, I don't want to tell them we can't do it at this point. So you make it happen. But one of the specific examples was that we had a couple of different sponsors for the event that did like home makeovers or home builds, right? And so each one of their projects, the guy who runs it, he just really likes to upscale every single next project. He wants to work on like a bigger, nicer house and add some cool new elements to it every single time. Because of that, they had some footage of like their latest project, but then they've also got these renderings, just photo renderings of the next house. It's not done yet though, but they're going to be releasing this, probably using this video for the next year, right? And they don't want to have this new project, his latest, his current style, not shown in the video. So he had a photo of it. He just had a photo from the architect, a 3D photo of it that kind of looks semi-real. He sent it our way. And he said, I really want this one included. If you want, I can talk to the guy who actually does the 3D renderings and have him send over like a video clip or a couple different options for you to be able to use. Now we're like a week or two out from the event. I've got a bunch of other people to be able to wrap up for this event, and I got to make sure I get their approval with enough time so that the guys that are running the event that night have enough to be able to test in advance and make sure everything's ready to go. I'm like, I don't have time to be able to communicate now with a new contact, this other guy, talk to him about angles I want to have. So what I was actually able to do was, I have some design background as well too. What I did was first took the photo of the project, added in some real grass just through like Photoshop, added in just a little bit of some real sky in the background so it wasn't a 3D rendering of the sky. Then I took that, sent that over to ChatGPT and said, hey, can you enhance this photo a little bit more, make it look more realistic? It adds the reflections into the house, and it adds a little bits and some discolorations in the grass, and it looks a little bit more real there. Through Artlist's prompt, we dropped in that photo and said, this is the first frame. Just give me slight motion, a slight zoom in on this house. It added kind of like just a little bit of movement so the camera was just looking more natural. And we used it just as an insert shot within the video. There's a bunch of different stuff shown, but it blended in completely with other footage of real houses. And now he got to see their latest one in there. And this is the matter of, half an hour that we take this photo, we actually turn it into it's like a 5-second clip in the video itself. But that would have taken longer to hop on a call with the architectural drawings guy and talk to him about some angles I'd like to see. And again, I don't know what quality he can render out, how realistic it's going to be from that software, if it can even do video. So we had a very doable moment where we were able to put this into the finished project. It looked high quality and it matched with the rest of the footage. And it again was able to be done on time and with enough time for them to be able to review and say if they liked it or not. That's been some huge elements that now, like you said, our excuses are going away in the editing stage for sure. There's not a lot we can't do right now. It's just there's unique processes and it can take a lot of time, and that's the tough part is what can you say yes to? It's all doable. It's just how much time do you want to pay for us to take to do that thing the right way?
Yeah, I think another question that comes up is like ethically is like we can, but should we? It's like,
The old Jurassic Park question.
I had to work it in there somehow, but yeah. No, that's great. I think it's cool to see like the real application of how these tools get used, because it sounds like the whole video wasn't an AI video. It's like you used one shot. Maybe there were others that you didn't mention, but like, it was a complement to the whole, rather than whenever I'm still training myself whenever I hear like AI video, I'm like, oh, the whole thing? And it's like, yeah, you could make the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt trailer or whatever, but like you could also, there's these subtle little ways where it just gets dropped in there where if you were looking at it, you wouldn't have known that it wasn't a real photo, really. And it wasn't malicious, or it wasn't like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stigma around AI video too, where it's like, oh, you're trying to fool me.
Well, I think that stuff does happen though right now. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing these, but I'll get ads for products that don't exist. And I don't even know what the goal is for. Where it'll be like there was one that I saw, it was this weird, like it looked like a lamp that like poured water. So it essentially was a lamp, I guess. But it looked like a watering bucket, but then the water that be coming out of it was like strands of LED string light, right? And it was like, it was this product that was then in the middle of the living room and like a family sitting on the couch watching it. And I think there was like an Amazon link. Maybe it was like a spammy link and it was just going to, get some virus on your computer. But it was on it was on a legitimate platform. I think it was on like Instagram or Facebook or YouTube that this ad was running on. And I'm like, this is very clearly AI video, but it's selling that product. It was very, very odd to see. But yeah, I think because of that, there is a large amount of distrust because you could completely manufacture it out of nothing. So people don't know what part of it is real, which has given us a little bit of stickiness just because people are like, product photos for products that haven't been invented. We do a lot of stuff in manufacturing space, right? If you've got a new tube for a part that goes under a fridge, we did some stuff for a client recently where they do parts for refrigerators, right? That product, if I'm a guy that's at Maytag and I'm layman and I'm an engineer there, I need to see what that product looks like. I don't need to see an AI rendering of some family enjoying their fridge. That's not helpful to me. The accuracy, though, of a new thing is definitely a space that we've seen. It's still got to be real footage of the object. I don't need to see an AI version of that thing with fragments of other products involved.
Totally, especially if like maybe that product doesn't even exist. Like you said, that lamp thing like might not even be a real thing that you could give your money and then you wouldn't ever get your little lamp water.
I want my
bucket
watering
things.
can lamp.
Yeah, right. I gotta
I
gather
don't
the
know
family
why.
around. We're all gonna look at it. Like, what do you think I'm doing with my life? Yeah.
It goes in the middle of the living room, honey. I don't know why you think I'm wasting our money.
Everybody's talking about it. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for like spending the time with me. I feel like we could go on, and I would love to like dig into some of the other topics that we talked about before the call. But at least for this conversation, I want to thank you so much for spending the time. What are some ways that people can connect with you or check out the work the video department does or learn more about Company 119? What are some of the best ways?
The best way to reach out is through whatever channel you would naturally want to find our content on. We try to make sure that we're creating content that can go onto YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or on our website, having helpful resources for people there. So you can go to just videodept.com, videodept.com, and learn about us there and see some of our recent projects. That's probably a great place to be able to get the most information about us. But if you want to just follow along, subscribe to kind of our YouTube channel, and you can see our consistent content that we post there. It's nothing crazy, but just trying to keep people up to date. So I'd say those are the fastest route to go, is just visit our website.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. I'll definitely be on there and giving you some new follows and everything. So we'll make sure and link all of that in here too. But yeah, thank you so much, John. It was great to hang out for the last hour or so and talk good, the bad, and the ugly on AI and, how people can leverage it, in an effective way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining Jon and I in our conversation. I had a really great time chatting with him. My biggest takeaway was Jon's point about the diametrically opposed nature of AI and marketing. AI crowdsources what everyone else is doing, but the whole point of marketing is to stand out and to be unique. It highlights a critical reality in our industry. You can't fix it in post if the core message wasn't captured in the camera. It's so important to remember that while AI is a powerful tool, it's not necessarily a replacement for a solid pre-production process. To learn more about Jon's work, you can find him and his team at Video Department. We'll be sure to include their contact information in the show notes. Oh, and be sure to check out Video Department's Media Audit. It's a free resource that walks businesses through their current online video and photo presence. It looks across your website and social platforms and identifies where attention, reach, or potential leads may be slipping through the cracks. As we mentioned in the episode, being aligned at the very start of a project will save you tons of time, money, and frustration. In order to avoid all that, be sure to check out our free Fix Post framework. It includes the template creative brief that we use with our team and clients to get them synced up at the start of a project in order to deliver the strongest and quickest V1 possible. Don't forget to hit subscribe. This has been Let's Fix Post.